The maintenance guy everyone ignored just took down 3 corporate killers with a broken mop handle, and the whole thing's on camera. You think you know how this ends? You don't. Because what started as a routine safety check at the richest restaurant in the city just became the night that brought down a $1 billion empire. One quiet man, one choice, one moment that changes everything. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Because what you're about to hear, it's just getting started. The Meridian wasn't just a restaurant. It was a statement. Glass and marble and that particular kind of silence that only exists where money pools deep enough to drown in. The kind of place where a single meal costs more than most people make in a week, where the wine list reads like an auction catalog, and where the staff moves like ghosts, present but invisible, efficient but unnoticed. Caleb Vance had been invisible his whole life. He preferred it that way. He pushed through the service entrance at 8:47 p.m., toolbox in one hand, tablet in the other. The kitchen staff barely glanced at him. Why would they? Just another technician in worn Carhartt pants and a faded work shirt here to check the fire suppression systems. Required by law. Routine as breathing. "Daddy, can I have the iPad?" Mia looked up at him with those eyes, her mother's eyes, and Caleb felt that familiar ache, the one that never quite went away. 8 years old and too smart for her own good. Too aware that most kids didn't spend Tuesday nights sitting in restaurant kitchens while their fathers worked. 20 minutes, sweetheart. Then we'll grab pizza on the way home. You said that last time. Did I? Yeah, and we got sandwiches. Caleb managed a half smile. Okay, pizza. I promise. She settled onto a stool near the prep station, already absorbed in some game on the tablet. The sous chef, a harried woman with flour on her cheek, nodded toward a corner. You need anything from us? Just access to the panel. Won't be long. Caleb had been doing this work for 3 years now. Building maintenance, safety systems, the unglamorous infrastructure that kept places like the Meridian running. Before that? Before that was something else entirely. Something he didn't talk about. Something that felt like someone else's life. The control panel was behind the bar, tucked into a utility closet most patrons would never notice. Caleb made his way through the dining room, eyes down, footsteps quiet. The dinner crowd was in full swing, tables of executives and socialites, the ambient hum of wealth being casually displayed. He didn't belong here. Never had. Never would. The panel was a mess, as expected. Wiring from 3 different decades, modifications that violated at least 4 code sections, and a bypass on the smoke detector circuit that made his jaw tighten. This was how people died. This was how buildings became tombs. This was... Caleb stopped. Something was wrong. Not with the panel. With the room. He'd learned to read environments the way other people read books. 30 seconds in any space and he could tell you where the exits were, who was watching, what didn't fit. Old habits. The kind that don't die just because you want them to. His eyes tracked across the dining room. Everything looked normal. Pristine white tablecloths, crystal glassware catching the candlelight, soft jazz from hidden speakers. Normal. Except there. Northeast corner. Table 14. 3 men in suits. Expensive suits. The kind tailored to hide what needs hiding. They sat with that particular stillness that wasn't relaxation. It was control. Waiting. Watching. And between them, barely visible, a woman. Dark hair. Mid-30s maybe. Professional clothes wrinkled like she'd been wearing them too long. Her hands were on the table, flat against the white cloth. And even from across the room, Caleb could see her knuckles were white. She wasn't eating. Neither were they. This wasn't a dinner meeting. This was something else. Can I help you? Caleb turned. The restaurant manager stood beside him, tall, silver-haired, with that particular blend of courtesy and contempt that came from years of serving the wealthy. Just checking the fire system, Caleb said. Annual inspection. Yes, well, perhaps you could be a bit more discreet. Our guests prefer your bypass on the smoke circuit is illegal and dangerous. The manager's smile didn't waver. I'm sure we can discuss that another time. If you could just... A sound cut through the restaurant's ambient noise. Not loud, Most people probably didn't even register it, but Caleb heard it clear as breaking glass. A chair scraping, fast, wrong. He looked back at table 14. The woman was standing now. One of the men had her arm. Not obviously, not violently, just firmly. The way you hold someone when you're making it clear they're not leaving. Sir, I really must insist. Caleb handed the manager his tablet. Hold this. What? No, you can't. But Caleb was already moving. He crossed the dining room in 12 steps, weaving between tables with the kind of spatial awareness that comes from training most people never receive. The maitre d' started to intercept him. Caleb gave him a look, just a look, and the man stepped aside. Table 14. Up close now. The three men all looked the same, different faces, same build. Military bearing poorly hidden by expensive clothes. Corporate security. Maybe worse. The woman's eyes met his. There was fear there, but also something else. Recognition, maybe. Or hope. Evening, Caleb said. Calm, conversational, like he belonged here. Sorry to interrupt, but I need to speak with you, ma'am. The man holding her arm, square jaw, scar through his left eyebrow, didn't let go. Private dinner. Walk away. I'm sure it is. Still need to talk to the lady. You deaf. This from the second man. Bigger. Shoulders that strained his jacket. He said walk away. Caleb kept his eyes on the woman. Do you want to talk to me? She nodded. Barely. But enough. Then let's... Scarface tightened his grip. The woman winced. Last chance, maintenance man. Turn around. Go back to your pipes. Caleb looked at the hand on her arm, then at Scarface, then back at the hand. You're going to want to let go now. Or what? The third man stood, younger than the others, but meaner. The kind of mean that enjoys the work. You got about 5 seconds before we make you disappear, friend. And trust me, nobody in this room gives a damn about some janitor with a hero complex. Caleb glanced around. The kid was right. Every nearby table had suddenly found their food fascinating. The staff had evaporated. Even the manager had retreated to the host stand, already pulling out his phone. They were alone in a room full of people. I'm not a janitor, Caleb said quietly. Don't care what you are. You're about to be... Caleb moved. Not fast. Not dramatic, just efficient. His left hand trapped Scarface's wrist, thumb finding the pressure point with practiced precision. His right hand came up, flat-palmed, and caught the man's elbow. Physics did the rest. The arm bent wrong. Not broken. Not yet. But close enough that Scarface went white and released the woman with a sharp intake of breath. Jesus! The big one lunged. Caleb sidestepped, let momentum carry the man past him, and drove his knee into the exposed kidney. Not hard enough to cause real damage. Hard enough to make a point. The young one was smarter. He didn't charge. His hand went inside his jacket. Don't. Caleb's voice was flat. You pull that weapon in here, this becomes something different. You sure you want that? The restaurant had gone silent. That kind of silence that feels like pressure, like the air before a storm. The young one's hand stayed inside his jacket. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Probably not, but I know who she is. Caleb looked at the woman. She'd backed away from the table, clutching a small leather bag to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her alive. My name is Sarah Chen, she said. Her voice shook but held. I'm an investigative journalist with the Tribune. These men work for Helix Corporation. They've been following me for 3 days. Shut up, Scarface hissed. And that bag? Caleb asked. Evidence? Documents? Emails? Proof that Helix knowingly installed defective safety equipment in 17 buildings across the city. Equipment that's already caused 4 fires, 12 deaths. The words hit Caleb like a physical thing. 12 deaths. His wife's face flashed through his mind. Emma. The apartment fire. The faulty alarm that never went off. The investigation that went nowhere because the building's owner had connections, had lawyers, had enough money to make inconvenient questions disappear. 3 years. She'd been gone 3 years, and he was standing in a room watching it happen again. Is that true? He asked the men. Scarface had recovered enough to straighten. This is corporate business, private business. You just assaulted 3 people. I'd worry more about the lawsuit heading your way than I asked if it's true. Doesn't matter what's true, friend. What matters is you're done. You and your little girl waiting in the kitchen? Yeah, we noticed her. Cute kid. Be a shame if... Caleb's fist drove into Scarface's solar plexus before the man finished the sentence. This time it wasn't controlled. This time it was rage. Scarface folded like paper. Big mistake, the young one said. His hand came out of his jacket. Gun, small caliber, probably a .380. Easy to conceal. The room erupted. Screams, chairs scraping, people scattering like birds. Caleb stepped into the young one's space inside the gun's effective range. His right hand caught the weapon's barrel, twisted it up and away. His left drove into the man's throat. Not crushing, just stunning. The gun clattered to the floor. The big one recovered faster than expected. Caleb sensed rather than saw the attack coming. He turned, let the punch glance off his shoulder, and used the man's momentum to send him crashing into table 14. Glassware exploded. The table collapsed. Stop! Everyone stop! The manager's voice, desperate, terrified. I've called the police. They're on their way. Caleb stood in the wreckage, breathing hard. The three men were down but not out. Scarface was on his knees, gasping. The young one clutched his throat. The big one was tangled in the table's remains, bleeding from a dozen cuts. Sarah Chen stared at him. Who are you? Good question. Caleb Vance was a maintenance technician, widower, father, someone who fixed things for a living because fixing was easier than remembering. But before that? Before that, he'd been someone else entirely. Daddy? Mia's voice, small and scared. She stood at the edge of the dining room, tablet clutched in both hands, eyes wide. Everything in Caleb went cold. The big one saw her too, saw the opening. He lunged, not at Caleb, at Mia. Time slowed. Caleb moved, but he was too far away. The big one was closer, faster, reaching for his daughter with blood-slicked hands and murder in his eyes because that's what you did when you were losing. You went for the leverage. You went for the hurt. Except he never made it. The sous chef, the harried woman with flour on her cheek, stepped out from the kitchen doorway and swung a cast-iron skillet like she was hitting a home run. It connected with the big one's temple with a sound like a hammer on meat. He dropped like a stone. The kitchen erupted in applause. Nobody, the sous chef said, breathing hard, threatens a kid in my kitchen. Sirens. Close now. Caleb scooped Mia into his arms. She buried her face in his shoulder, shaking. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. It wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. Sarah Chen appeared beside him. Take this. She pressed a USB drive into his hand. Back up. Everything's on there. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. You don't know these people. I know people like them. The police burst through the front entrance. 4 officers, weapons drawn. Everyone on the ground, now! Caleb set Mia down carefully. Do what they say, baby. He knelt, hands visible, calm. Sarah did the same. The 3 corporate security men were already down, Scarface and the young one from Caleb's work, the big one from the sous chefs. What the hell happened here? The lead officer, Sergeant Stripes, 20 years on the face, surveyed the wreckage with professional dismay. These men attempted to kidnap Ms. Chen, Caleb said evenly. I intervened. Intervened? Looks like you started a war. They pulled a weapon. I defended myself and the witness. The sergeant's eyes found the .380 on the floor, then Sarah, then the 3 men being cuffed by his officers. Then Caleb. You got a name, hero? Caleb Vance. Well, Mr. Vance, you better have a damn good lawyer, because this... He gestured at the destroyed table, the injured men, the terrified diners. This is going to be complicated. But Sarah was already talking, words spilling out in a rush. The story, the evidence, the deaths, Helix Corporation, the cover-up. The sergeant's expression changed, hardened. You have proof? She held up the leather bag. Enough to bury them. Then you're coming to the station. Protective custody. And you, he pointed at Caleb, you're coming too. We need statements, all of it. Caleb nodded. Can someone take my daughter? She's got an aunt downtown. I'll stay with her. The sous chef again. She'd put down the skillet and was kneeling beside Mia, who'd stopped shaking and was now watching everything with that unsettling calm kids sometimes found in chaos. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. Anyone who swings at these corporate bastards is all right by me. Besides, she smiled at Mia, I've got a batch of croissants proving. Someone should eat them. Mia looked at Caleb. He nodded. It's okay. I'll call Aunt Rachel. She'll pick you up. You're not in trouble? No, baby. I'm not in trouble. He hoped that was true. The sergeant was already on his radio calling for backup, for detectives, for someone higher up the chain who could handle what was clearly becoming something bigger than a restaurant brawl. Caleb stood slowly, hands still visible. One of the officers patted him down, professional, thorough, and found nothing, because there was nothing to find. Just a maintenance guy with a toolbox and a kid and a past he'd tried to leave behind. But the past doesn't stay buried. Not really. It just waits. As they led him toward the door, Caleb glanced back at the Meridian, at the wreckage of Table 14, at the guests slowly emerging from their hiding places, already pulling out phones, already sharing videos, already making tonight into tomorrow's headlines. The manager stood by the host stand, ashen-faced. The maitre d' was arguing with an officer. The sous chef had Mia in the kitchen, showing her something that made her smile. And in the corner, being cuffed and read his rights, Scarface looked at Caleb with pure hatred. You're dead, he mouthed. You and everyone you love. Caleb held his gaze, didn't blink, didn't flinch. Get in line, he said quietly. Outside, the night was cool and sharp. Police lights painted the street in alternating blues and reds. News vans were already arriving, cameras deploying, reporters emerging like sharks drawn to blood. Sarah Chen walked beside him, escorted by 2 officers. She looked exhausted, terrified, relieved. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. I know, but you didn't have to step in. Most people wouldn't have. Most people aren't. Caleb stopped. Most people aren't what? Most people aren't former military contractors who spent a decade resolving conflicts the government couldn't officially acknowledge. Most people aren't widowers with nothing left to lose. Most people aren't broken in the exact right way. Most people aren't paying attention, he finished. They put him in one cruiser, Sarah in another. Standard procedure. Keep the witnesses separate until the stories are recorded. Through the window, Caleb could see the Meridian's entrance. More police were arriving. Detectives now. Someone in a suit who looked federal. This was bigger than he'd realized, maybe bigger than Sarah realized. Helix Corporation, he knew that name, everyone did. Construction, development, infrastructure, billions in government contracts, the kind of company that shaped skylines and political careers. The kind of company that didn't let journalists expose their secrets. The kind of company that made people disappear. The cruiser pulled away from the curb. Caleb watched the Meridian recede in the side mirror, watched the lights and the chaos shrink into the general glow of the city. Mia was safe. That was what mattered. Everything else was manageable. Except the USB drive in his pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Except Scarface's threat echoed in his ears. Except Emma's face wouldn't leave his mind. Except he'd just stepped into something that felt exactly like the kind of thing he'd sworn he'd never touch again. The driver, young officer, fresh-faced, glanced at him in the rear view. You okay back there? Yeah. Hell of a thing you did, taking on 3 guys. Wasn't trying to take anyone on, just trying to help. Still, most people would have walked away. Most people weren't haunted by what happens when you walk away. The station was downtown, a fortress of concrete and cynicism that had processed 1,000,000 nights like this. They brought Caleb through the side entrance, avoiding the press already gathering at the front. Inside was fluorescent lights and coffee and the particular smell of institutions, sweat and fear and bureaucracy. A detective met them in the hall. 40s. Tired eyes. The kind of tired that comes from seeing too much truth. Mr. Vance? I'm Detective Reeves. We need to talk. They put him in an interview room. Standard box, table, chairs, mirror that wasn't fooling anyone. Reeves sat across from him. Didn't turn on the recorder yet, just studied him. You know what we found when we ran your name? No. Not much. Maintenance contractor, clean record. Before that, employment history gets fuzzy. Some overseas work. Security consulting. Details are redacted. That was a long time ago. Not that long. What did you do, Mr. Vance? Really? Fix things. Same as now. Just different things. Reeves smiled without humor. Took down 3 trained security operators without breaking a sweat. That's not maintenance work. They threatened my daughter. Yeah, I saw the footage. The restaurant's security cameras caught most of it. You moved like... Reeves paused. You moved like someone who knows exactly what they're doing. I defended myself, and Ms. Chen. I'm not saying you didn't. I'm saying you did it in a way that raises questions. Caleb said nothing. Silence was often the best answer. Reeves leaned back. Here's where we are. Sarah Chen's evidence is legitimate. Helix Corporation has been cutting corners on safety equipment for at least 2 years. The documents she's got, emails, invoices, internal memos, they're damning. 4 confirmed fires, 12 deaths, probably more we don't know about. Emma's fire. Was that Helix too? The thought made Caleb's hands clench under the table. So why am I here? He asked. Because the 3 men you hospitalized, they're not talking, lawyered up immediately, and their employer, Helix, is already threatening lawsuits against you, against Ms. Chen, against the city if we don't release their employees. On what grounds? Does it matter? They've got money. Money gets lawyers. Lawyers get results. So this goes away. Like always. Maybe. Maybe not. Reeves leaned forward. Ms. Chen's editor is already running the story. Early edition hits in 3 hours. By morning, this will be everywhere. And that footage from the restaurant? Someone leaked it. It's already viral. Maintenance hero stops corporate kidnappers. You're famous, Mr. Vance. Caleb closed his eyes. Famous was the last thing he needed. I didn't want this. Nobody ever does. But here we are. So here's my question. What do you want to happen now? What did he want? He wanted Emma back. He wanted Mia to grow up in a world where corporations didn't kill people for profit. He wanted to go back to being invisible, to fixing air conditioning and fire panels and living a quiet life. But wanting didn't matter. Only what was. I want those 12 people to matter, Caleb said. I want their deaths to mean something. Reeves nodded slowly. Then you're going to have to trust me. Because this gets complicated from here. How complicated? Helix has connections everywhere. City council, state legislature, federal agencies. They're already making calls, already applying pressure. We've got maybe 48 hours before someone higher up the chain decides this is more trouble than it's worth. Then we'd better make those 48 hours count. We? Caleb met his eyes. You said I have to trust you. That goes both ways. A knock on the door. Another detective stuck his head in. Reeves, you need to see this. They moved to a conference room where a TV was showing local news. The anchor was mid-report, voice tight with suppressed excitement. Breaking story tonight as exclusive footage shows a dramatic confrontation at the Meridian restaurant. What started as an apparent kidnapping attempt has evolved into potentially the biggest corporate scandal of the decade. The screen cut to phone footage, shaky but clear enough. Caleb stepping between Sarah and the 3 men. The fight. The gun. The chaos. The man being hailed as a hero tonight has been identified as Caleb Vance, a maintenance contractor and widower raising his 8-year-old daughter alone. But sources tell us Vance may have a background in private security, possibly military contracting. Reeves muted it. It's on every channel. Twitter's exploding. You're trending. Caleb's phone, which the police had returned after checking it, buzzed insistently. Messages, calls. His sister Rachel, friends he hadn't talked to in years, unknown numbers. I need to get my daughter, he said. Already done. Your sister picked her up an hour ago. She's safe. I want to see her. You will. But first, Reeves gestured at the TV. We need to figure out how to keep you both safe. Because Helix isn't going to let this go. They can't afford to. Another detective entered. Federal. Had to be. The posture gave it away. Mr. Vance, I'm Agent Morrison, FBI. We need to talk about Helix Corporation. Are they under investigation? They are now. Ms. Chen's evidence is enough for us to open a case. But we're going to need cooperation. Witnesses, people willing to testify. I'll testify. It's not that simple. Helix has made certain allegations about you, about your past. What kind of allegations? Morrison pulled out a tablet, scrolled through something. They're claiming you're a foreign agent, that this whole thing was a setup to discredit them. They've got lawyers already filing motions, already leaking counter-narratives to the press. That's insane. Doesn't matter if it's true. Matters if people believe it. And Helix is very good at making people believe. Caleb looked around the room, at the detectives and agents and lawyers who'd somehow materialized in the last 2 hours, at the TV still playing silent footage of his face, his fight, his life being turned inside out. This was exactly what he'd run from. The exposure, the attention, the weight of being at the center of something that mattered. But Emma's face wouldn't leave his mind. Neither would the look in Sarah Chen's eyes when those men had grabbed her. Neither would Mia, waiting at home, probably terrified, definitely confused. "What do you need from me?" Caleb asked. Morrison smiled. "The truth. All of it. Who you were, who you are. Why we should believe you're the hero everyone's saying you are. And if I don't? Then Helix's narrative win. You become the villain. Sarah's evidence gets buried under conspiracy theories. Those 12 deaths stay unsolved. And the next building that burns, the next family that dies, that's on all of us." Caleb stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city glittered with a million lights. Somewhere in those lights, Mia was probably curled up on Rachel's couch, waiting for him to come home. Somewhere in those lights, Emma's grave stood silent in Oakland Cemetery. Somewhere in those lights, people were living in buildings with faulty equipment, trusting that someone gave a damn about their safety. "Okay," Caleb said quietly. "You want the truth? Here it is." He turned back to the room. "My name is Caleb Vance. I'm 37 years old. I fix things for a living. Before that, I worked for a private military contractor called Sentinel Solutions. We did conflict resolution in places the government couldn't officially operate. I was good at my job, very good, until I realized my job was just creating different kinds of problems." He paused. No one interrupted. "I met my wife Emma at a veteran support group. She worked for an NGO doing refugee resettlement. We got married, had Mia. I quit Sentinel, went legitimate. Thought we'd build something normal." His voice caught. He pushed through it. 3 years ago, Emma died in an apartment fire. Faulty smoke detector. The building owner had ignored safety violations for months. There was an investigation. It went nowhere. Rich people don't face consequences. "Jesus," Reeves muttered. "I tried to pursue it. Hire lawyers, make noise. But I was nobody. Just a grieving husband with no proof and no connections. So I did what I knew how to do. I learned everything about building safety. Became certified in fire systems. Started working maintenance. Because if I couldn't get justice for Emma, maybe I could prevent it happening to someone else." Morrison was writing notes. "And tonight? Tonight I saw the same thing that killed my wife about to happen again. I wasn't going to walk away. Not this time." The room was silent. Finally, Morrison closed his tablet. "That'll play. The widower turned hero, fighting for others because he couldn't fight for his wife. Media will love it. I don't care what the media loves. I care about stopping Helix." "Then we're on the same page. Because with your testimony and Sarah's evidence, we can build a case. But you need to understand, this gets ugly from here. Helix will come at you with everything, your past, your credibility, your daughter. They already threatened her once tonight. That was nothing, amateur hour. What comes next is professional, character assassination, surveillance, legal warfare. They'll try to break you." Caleb smiled without humor. "I've been broken before. I'm still here." "Good. Then here's what happens next. We put you in protective custody, you and your daughter, somewhere Helix can't reach you while we build the case." "How long?" "Weeks, maybe months. I can't put Mia through that. You can't put her in danger either. Those men tonight, they were just the opening move." Caleb's phone buzzed again. "Rachel." He answered. "Caleb? Oh, thank God. Are you okay? What's happening? The news is saying, I'm fine, Rach. Is Mia okay?" "She's asleep. Finally." "But Caleb, There are reporters outside my building. Cameras. They're asking about you, about Emma, about get somewhere safe. Pack a bag. I'm sending police to bring you both downtown. What? Why? Because this isn't over, and I need to know you're both protected. A pause. Then, quieter. You're scaring me. I know, I'm sorry, but trust me. Please. Okay? Okay. We'll be ready. He hung up, looked at Morrison. My sister and daughter need protection. Now. Already on it. We've got a safe house. Secure location. They'll be comfortable. They'll be imprisoned. They'll be alive. That's what matters. Caleb wanted to argue, wanted to say there had to be another way, but he'd seen too much, done too much to pretend there were easy answers. Sometimes survival was the only victory available. Okay, he said. We do it your way. But I want daily contact with Mia, video calls, supervised if necessary, but she needs to know I'm okay. Done. Reeves stood. I'll get the paperwork started. Miss Chen's already agreed to protective custody. With both of you secured, we can move forward. The conference room door opened. Sarah Chen entered, escorted by another agent. She looked worse than before, exhausted, pale, but determined. Mr. Vance, she said, they told me what you're doing. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. No, I mean, she stopped, started again. I've been chasing this story for 8 months. Every door slammed in my face. Every source intimidated into silence. I was starting to think it would never see light. Then you... She shook her head. You didn't have to step in. You could have walked away. I've tried walking away. Doesn't stick. She managed a tired smile. Yeah, I know the feeling. Morrison gestured them both to seats. Okay, let's go through everything, from the beginning, every detail, every name. We build this case right, or we don't build it at all. They talked for hours. Caleb recounting the evening from when he'd first arrived at the Meridian. Sarah going through her evidence piece by piece. The emails showing Helix executives knew about defective equipment. The invoices proving they'd installed it anyway. The internal memos discussing acceptable casualty rates. Acceptable casualties. Like Emma. Like the 11 others. By the time they finished, dawn was breaking outside. The city waking up to a story that would dominate news cycles for weeks. Morrison stood, stretching. This is good. Better than good. We've got enough to move forward. Grand jury will convene tomorrow. Indictments by end of week if everything holds. And if it doesn't? Caleb asked. Then we improvise. But the evidence is solid. Your testimony is credible. Unless Helix pulls something unexpected. His phone rang. He answered, listened, went pale. When? How many? A pause. Jesus, okay, yeah, I'm on my way. He hung up, looked at Caleb and Sarah with an expression somewhere between fury and dread. There's been another fire. Downtown. Office building. 3 dead so far. Smoke detectors failed. Helix building? Sarah asked. Helix equipment. Installed 6 months ago. The room erupted. Agents making calls, detectives grabbing coats, everyone mobilizing toward the new crisis. Caleb sat frozen. 3 more. 3 more deaths. Because the evidence was gathered, but the company still operated. Because the system moved slow and fire moved fast. We have to shut them down, he said. Today. Now. Before anyone else. It doesn't work that way, Morrison said, already halfway to the door. We need warrants, injunctions, legal process. People are dying. I know, but if we move without proper procedure, any case we build falls apart. Helix walks. You want that? Caleb didn't answer. Because no, he didn't want that. But he also didn't want more bodies, more families getting the news, more Emmas. Sarah was crying quietly. This is my fault. I should have published sooner. Gone public before. This isn't your fault, Reeves said firmly. This is Helix. This is on them. All we can do now is work the case. But Caleb was remembering something Scarface had said. About Mia. About everyone Caleb loved. This wasn't just about justice anymore. This was war. The safe house smelled like old carpet and desperation. Caleb stood at the window, watching the sun climb over a city that had no idea it was burning. Somewhere downtown, firefighters were still pulling bodies from the wreckage. 3 confirmed dead, maybe more trapped in the rubble. All because Helix Corporation valued profit over lives, and the system moved too damn slow to stop them. You should eat something. Agent Morrison appeared beside him with a foam container of scrambled eggs that looked like they'd been sitting under a heat lamp since the Clinton administration. Caleb didn't take it. I'm not hungry. You need to keep your strength up. Long day ahead. Every day's long when you're waiting for the world to give a shit. Morrison set the container on the windowsill. Outside, the safe house sat in a neighborhood that time forgot. Aging apartments and chain-link fences. The kind of place where people minded their business because they had enough of their own problems. We're moving as fast as we can, Morrison said. Not fast enough. You think I don't know that? 3 more people died last night. I've got their families calling, press breathing down our necks, and Helix's lawyers already filing motions to suppress evidence. Fast isn't an option. Thorough is all we've got. Caleb turned from the window. The safe house living room was generic to the point of erasure. Beige walls, rental furniture, a TV that probably got 3 channels. Sarah Chen sat on the couch, laptop open, typing furiously. She hadn't slept. Neither had he. How's the story coming? He asked her. It's not. My editor's getting cold feet. Legal department flagged it. Too many potential lawsuits. They want more corroboration before they run anything beyond the basics. You've got documents, emails, dead bodies. What more do they need? Something that won't get the paper sued into oblivion. She rubbed her eyes. This is how they win, you know. Not by being right, by being expensive to fight. Morrison's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. Grand jury's convening in 2 hours. We need you both ready to testify. I thought you said end of week, Caleb said. That was before last night. DA's pushing for emergency indictments. Get Helix executives in custody before they can destroy more evidence or flee the country. Will it work? If your testimony holds? If Sarah's documents hold? If the jury believes that a multi-billion-dollar corporation with political connections and a fleet of lawyers actually did what we're saying they did? Morrison paused. So yeah, 50-50. Great odds when lives hung in the balance. A door opened down the hall. Mia emerged, hair messy from sleep, wearing one of Rachel's old t-shirts that hung to her knees. She saw Caleb and ran to him. He caught her, held her tight. She smelled like kid shampoo and the particular sweetness of 8-year-old sweat. Why are we here, Daddy? Just for a little while, baby, until some things get sorted out. Aunt Rachel says we're hiding from bad people. Caleb shot his sister a look. Rachel stood in the bedroom doorway, defensive. She asked. I'm not going to lie to her. She's 8. She's smart. She deserves to know what's happening. What's happening is... Caleb stopped. What could he say? That her father had stepped into something bigger than himself? That the world was broken and sometimes trying to fix it just made you a target? That safety was an illusion and the people who promised protection were often the ones who needed protecting from? What's happening is we're helping some people who need help, he said instead. And sometimes helping is complicated. Mia pulled back, looked at him with Emma's eyes. Are you in trouble? No, I'm trying to make sure other people aren't in trouble. Like the lady from the restaurant? Yeah, like her. Sarah looked up from her laptop, managed a smile. Hi, Mia. I'm Sarah. Your dad saved my life last night. I know, I saw it. Before they took my tablet away. Mia's expression turned serious. Those men were bad. Very bad. Is Daddy going to fight them again? Different kind of fight this time, Caleb said. With words and evidence. Instead of beating people up, Rachel finished. She moved into the living room, poured coffee from a pot someone had made hours ago. Because that's what we do now. Start wars in fancy restaurants. I didn't start anything. No, you just ended up on every news channel in the country. Do you have any idea what that's done? My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Mom called from Arizona. Your old CO from Sentinel left 3 messages. There are reporters camped outside my apartment, Caleb. They're digging into Emma's death, your service record, everything. Let them dig. I've got nothing to hide. Everyone's got something to hide, and Helix is going to find it and use it to bury you. Morrison interrupted. She's not wrong. Helix's PR team is already spinning counter-narratives. They're painting you as an unstable veteran with anger issues who attacked their employees unprovoked. There's video evidence, which they're claiming is edited, taken out of context. They've got witnesses, other diners, who say you threw the first punch. Those witnesses are lying. Doesn't matter. It's he said, she said, and they've got better lawyers. Caleb felt the familiar rage building, the kind that had gotten him through firefights and bad missions and the empty years after Emma died, the kind that was useful until it wasn't. So what do? We stick to the truth, let the evidence speak, and hope the jury sees through the bullshit. Morrison checked his watch. Car's picking us up in 30 minutes. You should get ready. The courthouse was a fortress of marble and self-importance, built in an era when government buildings were designed to intimidate. Caleb had been here before years ago, trying to get someone to care about Emma's death. He'd sat in hallways like this, waiting for meetings that never happened, filing complaints that disappeared into bureaucratic black holes. This time felt different. This time he had leverage. They entered through a side entrance, avoiding the press circus at the front. Cameras and reporters formed a mob, shouting questions, desperate for sound bites. Caleb caught glimpses of signs, some supporting him, others calling him a fraud. America in miniature. Inside, the grand jury room was smaller than he'd expected. No windows. Fluorescent lights. 23 citizens pulled from their normal lives to decide if there was enough evidence to indict. The prosecutor was a woman named Diane Hartley, early 50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She'd made her reputation taking down white-collar criminals. If anyone could navigate this mess, it was her. "Mr. Vance," she said, shaking his hand, "thank you for being here. I know this isn't easy." Easy stopped being an option a long time ago. Good, because Helix's lawyers are already outside trying to get this shut down. They're claiming witness intimidation, procedural irregularities, basically throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. Will any of it? Not if I can help it. But I need you to be solid in there. No emotion, just facts. Can you do that? Caleb thought about Emma, about the 3 people who died last night, about Mia sleeping in a safe house because telling the truth had become dangerous. "Yeah," he said, "I can do that." The testimony took 3 hours. Hartley walked him through everything, his background, his presence at the Meridian, the confrontation, the evidence Sarah had shown him. The jury listened with expressions ranging from shock to skepticism. When it was Sarah's turn, she presented her documents with the precision of someone who'd been preparing for this moment her entire career. Emails where executives joked about cutting corners, invoices showing deliberate substitution of approved equipment with cheaper, defective alternatives, internal risk assessments that literally calculated acceptable death tolls. They knew, Sarah said, her voice steady. They knew people would die. They did the math and decided it was profitable anyway. One juror, an older woman in the back row, looked like she might be sick. Helix's defense attorney tried to poke holes, questioned the document authenticity, suggested Sarah had fabricated evidence, implied Caleb had a vendetta against corporations after his wife's death. "Isn't it true, Mr. Vance, that you filed multiple lawsuits against building owners and contractors?" "I filed complaints with building inspectors. Legal complaints. Complaints that went nowhere, because the people I was complaining about had better lawyers than I did." "So you took matters into your own hands, attacked 3 men in a public place. I defended a woman who was being held against her will. Or you assaulted 3 security professionals who were having a private conversation with a colleague." Hartley objected. The judge sustained it, but the seed was planted. Doubt, the lawyer's favorite weapon. When they finally dismissed him, Caleb felt hollowed out. Morrison met him in the hallway. "You did good in there." "Didn't feel good." "Never does. That's how you know it mattered." They reconvened at the safe house, waiting. The grand jury would deliberate, then vote, needed 12 votes to indict. Anything less, and Helix walked. Rachel had made sandwiches that nobody ate. Mia was drawing pictures at the kitchen table, elaborate scenes of heroes and villains that hit too close to home. Sarah paced, checking her phone every 30 seconds. "How long do these things usually take?" she asked. "Anywhere from an hour to a day," Morrison said. "Depends on how much they want to argue." "And if they don't indict?" "Then we pursue other avenues." Civil suits, federal investigation, there's always another angle. But those take years. Usually, people don't have years. That building last night, there are a dozen more just like it, all with Helix equipment, all waiting to burn. She wasn't wrong. That was the hell of it. The system was designed for deliberation, for process, for making sure every T was crossed before taking action. Noble in theory, deadly in practice. Caleb's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Mr. Vance, we need to talk. The voice was smooth, educated, the kind of voice that gave orders and expected compliance. Who is this? My name is Richard Castellano. I'm general counsel for Helix Corporation. I believe you've been making some serious allegations about my clients. Morrison was suddenly at his shoulder, gesturing frantically. Caleb hit the speaker button. Your clients threatened my daughter. A misunderstanding, I assure you. Our security personnel were simply trying to retrieve proprietary documents that Ms. Chen had obtained illegally. She's a journalist. Obtaining documents is called reporting. She's a thief, and you assaulted 3 men who were attempting to recover stolen property. But I'm not calling to debate legalities. I'm calling to offer you a way out. Out of what? This mess, this media circus, this fight you cannot win. Castellano's voice remained pleasant, reasonable. Helix Corporation regrets the incidents that have occurred. We're prepared to settle, generously. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money, Mr. Vance. The question is how much. We're prepared to offer you $2 million, cash, tax-free. In exchange for a signed statement admitting you misunderstood the situation at the Meridian and that our employees acted appropriately. The room was silent. Sarah looked stricken. Morrison was recording everything on his phone. And Sarah Chen? Caleb asked. Ms. Chen's situation is more complicated, but I'm confident we can reach a similar arrangement. The important thing is making this go away. For everyone's benefit. Everyone's benefit, not the benefit of the people who died. Tragic accidents, but accidents nonetheless. The legal system will determine liability. In the meantime, I'm offering you a chance to walk away with your dignity and your bank account intact. What about my conscience? A pause, then a laugh. Mr. Vance, I've negotiated thousands of settlements. Conscience is a luxury most people can't afford. You have a daughter to raise, bills to pay, a future to consider. $2 million changes that future considerably. It does, but not the way you think. Think carefully before you decline. This offer expires in 24 hours. After that, our posture becomes significantly less friendly. Is that a threat? It's reality. We have resources you cannot imagine, lawyers who will tie you up in court for decades, investigators who will examine every aspect of your life. You think you're a hero now? Wait until we're done. You'll be lucky if anyone believes you were ever at that restaurant. Caleb looked at Mia, still drawing, at Rachel, watching him with worry, at Sarah, whose entire career hung on what he said next. Tell your bosses I said no. Tell them I'm going to see this through. And tell them that every time they threaten me or my family, I'm going to make sure one more person hears about what they did. You're making a mistake. Wouldn't be my first. He hung up. Morrison exhaled slowly. Well, that was monumentally stupid. Probably. They're going to come at you now, with everything. Let them. You don't understand. Helix doesn't just fight legal battles. They destroy people. Character assassination, false allegations. They'll manufacture scandals, plant evidence, turn your life inside out. Then I guess I better be ready. Sarah was shaking. You should have taken it. $2 million. That's more than I'll make in 10 years. You could have walked away. And left you hanging? Left all those families without justice? Caleb shook his head. I've walked away before. It doesn't help. Rachel stood abruptly. This is insane. You have a daughter, a responsibility. You're going to throw that away for what? Principle? Emma would have wanted... Don't. Caleb's voice was quiet but hard. Don't tell me what Emma would have wanted. She wanted to live. She wanted to watch Mia grow up. She wanted a world where corporations didn't kill people and then buy their way out of consequences. And she didn't get any of that because people like Castellano decided profit was more important. So you're going to be a martyr? That's the plan? I'm going to be someone who didn't look away. That's all. The room fell silent again. Outside, traffic hummed. The city kept moving, indifferent to their small drama. Morrison's phone rang. He answered, listened, closed his eyes. The grand jury voted, he said. Everyone stopped breathing. 15 to 8, indictments approved. Arrest warrants being issued now. Sarah let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Rachel sat down hard. Mia looked up from her drawing. Is that good, Daddy? Yeah, baby, that's good. But Morrison's expression said otherwise. There's more. Judge set bail at $500,000 per defendant. Helix already posted it. Every executive we indicted walked out of custody within an hour. How is that possible? They're rich. Rich people don't stay in jail, you know that. Caleb did know that, had known it since Emma died, and the building owner who ignored safety violations paid a fine and walked free. The system wasn't broken. It was working exactly as designed, to protect those who could afford protection. So what now? Sarah asked. Now we prep for trial. Could be months, maybe a year. Helix will file every motion imaginable to delay. Meanwhile, they're free to operate, free to install more equipment, free to kill more people, Caleb finished. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Morrison ran a hand through his hair. He looked as tired as Caleb felt. Look, I get it. This isn't the outcome anyone wanted, but it's progress. We got indictments. That's further than most corruption cases ever get. Further isn't far enough. It's all we have. Maybe. But Caleb was remembering his old life. The one before Emma and Mia and trying to be normal. The life where problems were solved with precision and planning and sometimes violence. The life where justice didn't wait for courts. His phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. He almost ignored it. Yeah? Mr. Vance? A woman's voice, shaky, young. My name is Jennifer Acosta. My brother died in the fire last night, the building downtown. Caleb's chest tightened. I'm sorry for your loss. I saw you on the news, what you did at that restaurant, and I need to know if it's true. If Helix really knew their equipment was faulty. It's true. Then why are they still operating? Why isn't anyone stopping them? They're being prosecuted. There's a trial coming. My brother is dead. 3 months ago, the building inspector warned about the smoke detectors. Helix sent someone to fix them. They certified everything was fine. And now Carlos is dead, and they're walking around free, like nothing happened. I know it's not right. So do something. You stop those men at the restaurant. Stop them now. It's not that simple. Why not? You're supposed to be a hero. That's what everyone's saying. So be a hero. Do something that actually matters. She hung up. Caleb stood there, phone in hand, feeling the weight of expectation and inadequacy. Who was that? Rachel asked. Someone who thinks I can fix this. Can you? Could he? The old Caleb, Sentinel Caleb, could have walked into Helix headquarters and extracted confessions at gunpoint. Could have sabotaged their operations, destroyed their equipment, made them hurt the way they'd made others hurt. But that Caleb was gone. Had to be gone. Because that kind of justice always came with collateral damage. Always created more problems than it solved. Except sometimes problems needed solving before more people died. I need some air, he said. Outside, the safe house neighborhood was quiet. Afternoon sun slanting through power lines, kids playing basketball in a distant court, someone's radio playing old soul music. Normal life, the kind Caleb had tried so hard to build. He walked to the corner store, bought a coffee he didn't want, and stood on the cracked sidewalk watching traffic. His phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number again. The building on 5th and Madison. Tonight at midnight. Come alone. RV, RV. It took Caleb a moment to place the initials. Then he remembered. Robert Vernon, his old team leader at Sentinel. The man who'd recruited him, trained him, turned him into the kind of person who could end problems efficiently. He hadn't heard from Vernon in 4 years. He shouldn't respond. Should delete the message and forget it existed. Should trust the system to work, slow as it was. But Jennifer Acosta's voice echoed in his head. Her brother was dead, and the people responsible were posting bail like it was a parking ticket. Caleb typed back, "Why?" The response came immediately. Because you're not the only one who wants Helix stopped, and because the law isn't going to do it. Another message. You know I'm right. You've always known. Caleb stared at his phone for a long moment. Then he deleted both messages and headed back to the safe house. Morrison was waiting on the porch, smoking a cigarette he probably wasn't supposed to have. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine. You're a terrible liar. One of my few flaws." Morrison took a drag, exhaled smoke into the fading light. "I've been doing this job 15 years. You know how many corporate executives I've actually seen go to prison?" "How many?" "3 out of hundreds of cases. The rest? Plea deals, fines, probation. They pay some money, promise to do better, and go right back to business." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to manage your expectations. Sarah's evidence is solid. Your testimony is credible. But Helix has resources we can't match. Best case scenario? They settle, pay out some victims' families, agree to a consent decree. Maybe a couple mid-level managers take the fall. But the people at the top? The ones who made the real decisions? They'll be fine." "That's not justice." "No, it's not. It's the system. And the system protects power." Caleb looked at Morrison, really looked at him, saw the resignation in his eyes, the weariness of fighting a war that never ended. "What would you do?" Caleb asked. "If you were me." Morrison dropped his cigarette, crushed it under his heel. "I'd probably do something stupid, get myself killed or arrested, which is why I'm not you." He went back inside. Caleb stayed on the porch, watching the sun sink toward the horizon. Somewhere in this city, Helix executives were having dinner at expensive restaurants, confident their lawyers would make this all go away. Somewhere, families were mourning people who died because someone decided safety was negotiable. And somewhere, Robert Vernon was waiting with an offer that Caleb knew he shouldn't take. His phone buzzed one more time. The offer stands. Midnight. Alone. Last chance to actually fix this. Caleb deleted the message. Then he went inside, kissed Mia goodnight, and started making a plan he knew was probably going to destroy everything he'd built. But at least it was a plan. At least it was action. And sometimes action was the only thing that mattered. Caleb waited until everyone was asleep before he moved. Rachel had taken the bedroom with Mia, their soft breathing audible through the thin walls. Morrison had left hours ago, promising to return in the morning with updates. Sarah was curled on the couch, laptop still open, finally surrendering to exhaustion somewhere around 2 a.m. The safe house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of settling wood. Caleb stood in the kitchen, dressed in dark clothes, checking supplies he shouldn't have had access to, but did, because old habits included knowing how to be prepared. He left a note on the counter. Simple. Direct. Had to handle something. Back by morning. Don't worry. See. The last part was a lie. But sometimes lies were kinder than truth. The building on 5th and Madison was an old factory converted to loft apartments, the kind of gentrification that priced out locals and attracted tech workers who thought exposed brick was authentic. At midnight, the street was empty except for a few parked cars and the glow of security lights that created more shadows than they eliminated. Caleb approached from the south, staying in those shadows, watching for anything that felt wrong. Vernon had chosen the location carefully. Multiple exits, high ground, good sight lines, the kind of place that gave tactical advantage to whoever arrived first, which meant Vernon had been here for hours. The side entrance was unlocked. Caleb slipped inside, letting his eyes adjust to the darkness. The ground floor was storage and utilities, concrete and exposed pipes. Footsteps echoed from above. 3rd floor, west corner. He climbed the stairs slowly, listening. No backup positions, no ambush points covered. Either Vernon was alone or he was supremely confident. Probably both. The 3rd floor opened into what had once been a manufacturing space. High ceilings, industrial windows, empty except for construction debris and old equipment covered in dust. Vernon stood near the windows, silhouetted against the city lights, looking exactly like Caleb remembered. Tall, lean, gray hair cut military short, face like weathered leather. 60 years old and still moved like a man half that age. "You're late," Vernon said without turning. "Traffic." "At midnight?" "I'm cautious." "You're paranoid. Different thing. Vernon turned, smiled. Good to see you, Caleb. Been too long. Not long enough. The smile didn't waver. Still angry about how things ended? You mean when you tried to recruit me for a Black Ops contract in Syria that would have gotten me killed or imprisoned? Would have paid extremely well. I had a wife, a daughter. Had being the operative word, Vernon's expression softened slightly. I was sorry to hear about Emma. Truly, she deserved better. Everyone deserves better than what Helix gives them. Which is why you're here. Why I'm here. We can help each other. Caleb stayed near the stairs, keeping distance between them. I'm listening. Vernon walked to a covered workbench pulled off the tarp. Underneath was a laptop, files, photographs. Evidence. The kind that didn't come from legal channels. Helix Corporation, Vernon said, gesturing at the spread. Been tracking them for 8 months. They're worse than Sarah Chen knows. The safety equipment fraud? That's just one division. They've got contracts with Defense, Homeland Security, half a dozen federal agencies. They're installing compromised systems everywhere, airports, military bases, critical infrastructure. Why? Money. Why else? Cut corners, maximize profit, let someone else clean up the mess. Vernon pulled up a file on the laptop. Security footage, a warehouse fire, bodies being carried out. This was 3 months ago, military depot in Nevada. Helix fire suppression system failed during a routine exercise. 17 soldiers died. Pentagon classified it, paid off families, made it disappear. Caleb felt sick. How do you know this? Because I still have friends in the community. People who notice when things don't add up. People who care about dead soldiers more than they care about defense contracts. And you want what? Revenge? I want them stopped. Permanently. Not arrested and bailed out. Not fined and reformed. Stopped. Vernon closed the laptop. Your journalist friend has good instincts, but she's playing by rules that don't apply to people like Helix. They'll drag this out until everyone forgets, until the news cycle moves on, until those deaths are just statistics. So what's your solution? Vernon smiled. The kind we used to specialize in, targeted, efficient, permanent. You want to kill Helix executives. I want to remove obstacles. How we define that removal is flexible. Caleb shook his head. I'm done with that life. I left Sentinel because Emma wanted you to be better. I know. And you tried. You really did. Became a maintenance guy, raised your kid, played by the rules. How'd that work out? Vernon's voice hardened. Your wife still died. Those 3 people last night still died. And tomorrow, maybe next week, someone else dies because you chose process over results. Process is how civilized society works. And civilized society is a fairy tale we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. Real world, power protects power. Always has. Only way to change that is to become the power they're afraid of. Caleb wanted to argue, wanted to say Vernon was wrong, that the system could work, that justice was possible without becoming the thing you were fighting. But he'd watched that system fail Emma, watched it fail Jennifer Acosta's brother, watched it fail everyone who couldn't afford better lawyers than their killers. What exactly are you proposing? He asked. Vernon pulled out a folder. Photographs. Documents. A plan. 6 executives. The ones who made the actual decisions, who knew about the defective equipment and installed it anyway. We remove them from the equation, make it look like accidents. Helix collapses without leadership. Assets get seized. Real investigations happen. Real consequences. And the collateral damage? Minimal. We're not amateurs. We're not anything. I'm not doing this. No? Vernon studied him. Then what are you doing? Waiting for a trial that might happen in a year? Hoping a jury convicts rich people despite their expensive lawyers? Trusting that the system suddenly starts working differently than it has for the past century? I'm trusting that I don't become a murderer to stop murderers. You've killed before. In war. With rules of engagement. With permission, that's what you mean. You could do terrible things as long as someone official told you it was okay, but thinking for yourself? Making the hard call? That scares you. It did scare him. That was the truth Vernon was dancing around, not the violence. Caleb had made peace with violence a long time ago, but the choice, the responsibility of deciding who deserved to die. I have a daughter, Caleb said. What happens to her when I'm in prison for murder? You don't go to prison. We're professionals. No evidence, no witnesses, clean. Nothing's clean. You taught me that. Every operation leaves traces. Every choice has consequences. Vernon sighed, walked to the window, looked out at the city. I'm not asking you to decide tonight. I'm asking you to think about it. About whether you want to be someone who fixes things or someone who watches them break. False choice. Only choice that matters. Everything else is just noise. He turned back. Take the files. Look at them. See what Helix is really doing. Then tell me the legal system is adequate. Caleb didn't move. Taking the files meant considering the option, meant stepping back toward a life he'd sworn was finished, but leaving them meant ignoring information, meant choosing blindness. He took the files. Vernon smiled. Smart man. You've got my number. When you're ready to do something that actually matters, call me. And if I decide to turn this over to the FBI, then you'll discover that some of those files are classified above their clearance level, and you'll spend the next few years explaining how you obtained state secrets. But you won't do that. You're too smart, too angry, too much like me. Caleb headed for the stairs. Vernon called after him. One more thing. Those men from the restaurant, the ones who threatened your daughter, they didn't work for Helix Security. They worked for a private contractor called Titan Solutions. Same company that handled the Nevada depot. Same company that's been cleaning up Helix's messes for years. So they're still looking for you, for Sarah Chen, for anyone who threatens Helix's operation. The FBI can protect you from legal trouble, can't protect you from professionals who don't care about laws. Is that supposed to scare me? It's supposed to inform you. Information is how smart people make smart decisions. Vernon's expression was unreadable in the dim light. Watch your back, Caleb. Not everyone fighting this fight is doing it in courtrooms. Caleb left without responding, descended the stairs fast, emerged into the night air that felt too thin, too cold. The files were heavy in his hands, heavy with information and implication and the weight of choices he didn't want to make. He was halfway back to the safe house when he noticed the tail. Black sedan, 2 cars back. Professional spacing. They'd picked him up somewhere near 5th and Madison, which meant they'd been watching the building, watching Vernon, or watching for anyone Vernon might meet. Caleb took a left. The sedan followed. He took another left, circling the block. Still there, not cops. Cops would have stopped him already. Not FBI for the same reason, which left private, which left Titan Solutions, which left the kind of people who made problems disappear. He had maybe 3 minutes before they made their move. Busy street would offer some protection, but midnight in this neighborhood meant empty sidewalks and locked doors. No witnesses, no help. Caleb turned into an alley, deliberate, giving them the opening they wanted because fighting on his terms was better than fighting on theirs. The sedan accelerated, pulled into the alley entrance, blocking escape. 2 men got out, big, professional, moving with the economy of trained operators. Caleb set down Vernon's files carefully, stood empty-handed in the alley's middle, letting them see he wasn't armed. "Gentlemen," he said, "bit late for a social call." The first one, shaved head, scar on his neck, smiled without warmth. "Mr. Vance, need you to come with us. Conversation, nothing dramatic." "I'm good here, thanks." Wasn't really a request. The second one was circling left, cutting off angles. Classic pincer. Caleb tracked both without moving his head, reading posture, weight distribution, telling details. Scarface was favoring his right leg slightly. Old injury. The circling one kept his hand near his jacket, armed, probably shoulder holster. "You're Titan Solutions," Caleb said. "Same outfit that employed the men from the restaurant." "We prefer to think of ourselves as problem solvers." "Yeah? How's that working out for your colleagues?" "Last I checked, they were facing assault charges." "A temporary setback. Charges will get dropped once this blows over. We're patient." Scarface moved closer. "But our employer? Less patient. Wants this situation resolved. Wants you to understand that continuing down this path has consequences." "Already had this conversation with Helix's lawyer. Didn't take his offer either." "This isn't an offer. This is instruction." Now Scarface was within striking range. "Mistake. You're going to recant your testimony. Tell the grand jury you made a mistake. Let this whole thing fade away." "Or what?" "Or accidents happen. Buildings catch fire. Cars run red lights. Little girls wander off from school and never come home. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Caleb felt something shift inside him. The part that had stayed controlled at the restaurant, that had testified calmly at the courthouse, that had tried so hard to be civilized. That part went quiet. What replaced it was older, colder. The part that Sentinel had cultivated and Emma had tried to gentle, and Vernon had always known was still there. "You just threatened my daughter," Caleb said softly. Scarface didn't pick up the warning. "We're clarifying stakes. Nothing personal, just..." Caleb moved, fast, not the controlled efficiency of the restaurant. This was violence distilled to pure function. His left hand caught Scarface's reaching arm, pulled him off balance. His right drove into the man's throat, harder than at the Meridian. Not stunning, crushing. Scarface went down choking. The second one reached for his gun. Caleb closed the distance before the weapon cleared the holster, drove his elbow into the man's temple. The impact was precise, calculated, the kind of strike that shut down nervous systems. Both men were down in under 4 seconds. Caleb stood over them, breathing hard, hands shaking with adrenaline and rage, and the terrible clarity that came from crossing lines. The circling one was unconscious. Scarface was trying to breathe through a collapsed trachea, eyes wide with panic and realization. Caleb knelt beside him, spoke quietly. "Listen carefully. You tell whoever sent you that my daughter is off limits. You tell them that the next person who threatens her doesn't get to walk away. You understand?" Scarface couldn't speak, could only nod. "Good. Now I'm going to call an ambulance. You're going to need one." Caleb stood, pulled out his phone. "And when you recover, you're going to find a different line of work. Because this is what happens when you confuse me with someone who's afraid." He called 911, reported 2 men injured in an alley, gave the address. Then he picked up Vernon's files and walked away before the sirens arrived. Back at the safe house, everyone was still asleep. Caleb went to the bathroom, washed his hands, checked his reflection in the mirror. Same face, same eyes. But something had shifted. Some line he'd promised himself he wouldn't cross. The files sat on the bathroom counter. Vernon's gift, his temptation. Caleb opened them. The first folder was Helix executive profiles, photographs, addresses, daily routines, the kind of intelligence that took months to compile. Richard Castellano, the lawyer who'd offered him money, lived in a penthouse downtown. Marcus Helix, the CEO, had a mansion in the suburbs with private security. Sarah Fletcher, VP of Operations, traveled between offices in an armored car. All of them rich, all of them protected, all of them complicit in deaths that numbered far more than 12. The second folder was incidents. Not just the fires Sarah had documented, military depot disasters, industrial accidents, building collapses, going back 5 years. Pattern after pattern of Helix equipment, failing at precisely the wrong moment. 53 confirmed deaths, probably hundreds more that got buried in paperwork and settlements. The third folder was connections. Politicians who'd received campaign donations, inspectors who'd approved faulty equipment, journalists who'd killed stories. A web of corruption so deep it was difficult to see where Helix ended and legitimate government began. Caleb sat on the bathroom floor, files spread around him, feeling the weight of information that changed everything. Vernon was right. The system wasn't going to fix this. The system was part of the problem. But Vernon's solution was murder. Might be justified murder. Might be necessary murder. But still murder. And once you started down that path, where did it end? His phone buzzed. Text from Morrison. "Where are you?" Your note wasn't reassuring. Caleb typed back. "Needed air. Back soon. Everything okay?" Was it? 2 men were on their way to the hospital because he'd hurt them badly. Vernon was offering him a chance to become what he used to be. Helix was threatening his daughter. The system was failing everyone who needed it most. Fine. Just thinking. Don't think too hard. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be rough. Tomorrow was already rough. But Caleb didn't say that. He gathered the files, hid them under the bathroom sink behind cleaning supplies, and went to check on Mia. She was sleeping peacefully, curled around a stuffed bear Rachel had given her, face relaxed in that particular way kids had when the world couldn't touch them. Caleb sat on the edge of the bed, watching her breathe, thinking about futures, about what kind of world he wanted her to inherit, about whether protecting her meant following rules or breaking them. Emma would have known what to do. Emma always knew. She'd been the moral compass when his had spun wild. The voice that reminded him violence solved problems short-term but created them long-term. But Emma was gone, and the people who'd created the conditions that killed her were still walking free. "Daddy?" Mia's voice, sleepy but alert. She'd woken without him noticing. "Hey, baby. Sorry. Didn't mean to wake you. You're sad. Just thinking. About Mommy?" "Yeah, about her too." Mia sat up, rubbed her eyes. "Aunt Rachel says Mommy would be proud of you for helping people." "Does she?" "Yeah, she said you're doing what Mommy always wanted, making things better." Caleb smiled despite everything. "Your mom wanted a lot of things. Not sure this is what she had in mind." "What did she want?" "She wanted people to be safe, to be able to trust that the systems keeping them alive actually worked. She wanted—" His voice caught. "She wanted to live long enough to see you grow up." Mia was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that broke Caleb's heart and fixed it simultaneously. "Maybe you can do both. Make people safe and make her proud. Maybe. Will you be gone again tomorrow?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Probably not." "Why?" "Because I don't like it here. I want to go home." Home. Their apartment, their life. The normal existence that felt increasingly like a memory. "Soon," Caleb promised. "Once this is all sorted out." "When will it be sorted out?" Good question. When did fights against systemic corruption end? When did justice arrive for people who couldn't afford to buy it? "I'm working on it," he said instead. Mia lay back down. "Okay, but Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Don't do anything stupid. Aunt Rachel says you're good at that." Despite everything, Caleb laughed. "Your aunt talks too much. She cares about you." "I know. I care about her too." "And you, always you." "I know." Mia closed her eyes. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, baby." He waited until she was asleep again before leaving. Walked back to the living room where Sarah was still unconscious on the couch. Her laptop had gone to sleep, screen dark. Beside it was a notebook filled with research, names, dates, connections. She was building a case the right way. Journalism, evidence, truth. And they were going to destroy her for it. Caleb's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him. "Yeah?" "Mr. Vance, Jennifer Acosta. We spoke earlier. About my brother." "I remember. It's late, Ms. Acosta." "I know. I'm sorry. I can't sleep. Can't stop thinking about Carlos, about how he called me the day before he died. Said the smoke detectors in his building had been acting weird. Beeping randomly. I told him to call the landlord. He did. They sent someone from Helix. Guy said everything was fine." Caleb closed his eyes. "I'm sorry." "Are you?" "Because sorry doesn't bring him back. Sorry doesn't fix anything." "No, it doesn't." "So what does? That's what I keep asking myself. What actually makes this right?" "I don't know. Justice, maybe. Accountability. Justice." She laughed bitterly. "You know what justice is? Those Helix executives posted bail before my brother's body was even cold. They're home right now, sleeping in expensive beds, eating expensive food. Living like nothing happened. That's justice? That's the system. Then the system is broken. And if you really care about fixing things like everyone says you do, you'll stop pretending it can be fixed from inside." She hung up before he could respond. Caleb stood in the dark safe house living room, phone in hand, feeling the walls close in. Jennifer Acosta's words, Vernon's offer, Morrison's warnings, Sarah's evidence, Mia's trust, all of it pulling him in different directions, all of it demanding different versions of who he was supposed to be. He went back to the bathroom, pulled out Vernon's files, looked at the photographs of Helix executives, at their addresses and routines and vulnerabilities. Vernon had done the hard part, intelligence, planning. All Caleb had to do was execute. One phone call, maybe two. and 6 people who'd killed dozens would stop being problems. It would be easy, almost too easy, which was exactly why it was wrong. Caleb put the files away, went to the window, watched the city lights blur and sharpen as his eyes adjusted. Somewhere out there, Helix executives were sleeping soundly. Somewhere, families were grieving. Somewhere, the scales of justice were broken beyond any easy repair. And somewhere, a maintenance technician who used to solve problems with violence was trying to remember why he'd stopped. The answer was sleeping in the next room, small and innocent and trusting that her father would choose the right path even when every path looked wrong. Caleb's phone buzzed one last time. Vernon. Offer stands. 24 hours. After that, I move forward without you. Caleb stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back, "Do what you need to do. I'm out." He deleted the message thread, turned off his phone, sat in the darkness and tried to believe he'd made the right choice. But belief was harder than action, and the night was very long. Morning came too fast and not fast enough. Caleb hadn't slept. He tried around 4 a.m., stretched out on the floor near Mia's room, but his mind wouldn't shut down. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Scarface choking in that alley, saw Vernon's files, saw the photographs of Helix executives who'd never face real consequences unless someone made them. By 6, he gave up. Made coffee in the safe house kitchen that tasted like burnt cardboard. Watched dawn break over a city that didn't know it was rotting from the inside. Sarah found him there at 6:30, looking rough. Her hair was a mess, eyes red-rimmed, but she was already dressed and working her phone. "My editor wants to meet," she said without preamble. "This morning. Says he's got concerns about the story." "What kind of concerns?" "The kind that come from lawyers and advertisers and board members who don't want to piss off a multi-billion-dollar corporation." She poured herself coffee, grimaced at the taste. "They're going to kill it. I can feel it." "They can't. You've got evidence. Dead bodies. Public interest. They've got shareholders and legal liability and a very expensive desire to not get sued into oblivion." Sarah sat across from him. "This is how it works. The story gets watered down until it's meaningless. We report that there were allegations and concerns and Helix denies wrongdoing. Then everyone moves on. So don't let them water it down. Easy to say. Harder when your career depends on editorial approval." She stared into her coffee like it might have answers. "I could go independent, post everything online, but then I'm just another blogger screaming into the void. No credibility, no reach, no impact." Caleb understood the trap. Play by the rules and the rules protected the powerful. Break the rules and you became easy to dismiss. "There has to be another way," he said. "Like what?" "Your friend Vernon's approach?" Caleb went cold. "How do you know about Vernon?" "I'm an investigative journalist. I investigate. Saw you leave last night, followed you to 5th and Madison, watched you meet someone, ran his image through facial recognition." She pulled up her phone, showed him a file. "Robert Vernon, former military contractor, current person of interest in several unsolved deaths of corporate executives." "So yeah, I know about Vernon. Question is, are you working with him?" "No." "You sure? Because 2 Titan Solutions operatives got hospitalized last night. Severe injuries. Both sustained around the time you were walking back from your secret meeting. That's a hell of a coincidence." Caleb said nothing. Sarah studied him with those sharp journalist eyes that missed nothing. "They threatened Mia," he said finally. "What was I supposed to do?" "Not put 2 men in intensive care would be a start. They'll live, barely, but they'll live. And when their friends come back, when Titan sends people who don't make mistakes, what then?" "Then I deal with it." "By yourself? Against a private military contractor with unlimited resources? That's not dealing with it. That's suicide." The bathroom door opened. Mia emerged, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She saw them and froze, picking up on the tension. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Fine, baby," Caleb said, forcing a smile. "Sarah and I were just talking about work." "Adult work or kid work?" "Very adult work. Why don't you see if Aunt Rachel's awake?" "Maybe we can get breakfast." Mia nodded but didn't move. "Are we safe here?" The question hit harder than it should have. Kids weren't supposed to ask about safety. They were supposed to assume it. "Yeah," Caleb lied. We're safe." She went back to the bedroom. Sarah waited until the door closed. "You can't protect her by yourself," she said quietly. "You need help. Real help. I've got Morrison, the FBI, who are operating within legal constraints that don't apply to people trying to kill you. You need—" She stopped, started again. "You need to consider that maybe Vernon's not wrong about everything. He wants to murder Helix executives. He wants to stop them, permanently. And after last night, after seeing my editor's face when corporate lawyers called him, I'm starting to wonder if he's the only one thinking clearly." Caleb stared at her. "You're a journalist. Truth and accountability. That's the whole point. Truth without consequences is just entertainment, and I'm tired of entertaining people while they die." She stood, paced. "You know what my editor said last night? He said, 'This is a business, Sarah. We can't afford to be heroes. Like heroism is expensive. Like doing the right thing is optional. So what are you suggesting?' I'm suggesting we stop pretending the system works. Stop waiting for courts and juries and appeals. Stop being reasonable while people burn. And become what? Vigilantes? Killers? I don't know, maybe. Is that worse than what we're doing now? Standing aside while—" Rachel's scream cut through the conversation like broken glass. Caleb moved without thinking, crossed the distance to the bedroom in 3 strides. Rachel stood at the window, phone in hand, face white. Mia was behind her, confused and scared. "What happened?" Caleb demanded. Rachel just pointed. Outside, visible through the window, someone had spray-painted a message on the safe house garage door in red letters 3 feet tall. "We know where she goes to school." Caleb felt ice flood his veins. Not fear. Something colder. Something that made decisions without consulting the parts of him that hesitated. He pulled out his phone. Called Morrison. "We're compromised. They found the safe house." "What? How?" "Does it matter? Get someone here now. And I need a new location. Somewhere actually secure. On it. Don't move until—" "They threatened my daughter's school. I'm not waiting for backup." He hung up. Rachel was holding Mia, both of them shaking. Sarah had come to the doorway, seen the message, gone pale. "We need to leave," Caleb said. Now. Now. Pack light. 2 minutes." "Where are we going?" Rachel asked. "Somewhere they can't follow." But even as he said it, Caleb knew the truth. There was nowhere they couldn't follow. Titan Solutions had resources that matched or exceeded law enforcement. They had surveillance networks, databases, contacts. Running would buy time, but not safety, which left one option. The option he'd been avoiding since he walked away from Sentinel. Stop running. Start hunting. Morrison arrived 15 minutes later with 3 FBI vehicles and enough agents to secure a small country. They swept the safe house, found no immediate threats, but discovered a GPS tracker on Rachel's car that had been placed sometime in the last 12 hours. "They've been watching the whole time," Morrison said grimly. "Probably followed us when we moved you here." "Great security," Caleb muttered. "We're doing our best with limited resources. Helix has people everywhere. Cops, federal agents, probably some of my own team." Morrison lowered his voice. "I'm moving you to a federal facility. Courthouse holding cells, highest security we've got." "For how long?" "Until trial. Could be months." "You expect my daughter to live in a holding cell for months?" "I expect your daughter to live, period. That's the priority." Morrison wasn't wrong, but the thought of Mia locked up, even for her own protection, made Caleb want to put his fist through a wall. Sarah approached them. "I've been thinking, maybe we're playing this wrong. Maybe instead of hiding, we go public, really public. National media, live interviews. Make them too visible to touch." "Publicity didn't save those whistleblowers who died in car accidents," Morrison said. "Helix has made problems disappear before. They'll do it again. So we just roll over, accept that they're untouchable." "I'm saying we follow procedure, build a case that sticks, put them away legally." "While they're out on bail," Sarah shot back. "While they're still operating, while more people die." Morrison's jaw tightened. "I don't like it either, but vigilante justice isn't justice. It's just different violence. At least it's effective. Until someone decides you're the problem that needs solving, then where are you?" They were interrupted by a young agent who handed Morrison a tablet. He read whatever was on it, went rigid. "What?" Caleb asked. Morrison turned the screen. News report. Breaking story. A Helix executive had been found dead in his home. Marcus Helix himself, CEO and founder. Dead from what appeared to be a heart attack. 62 years old. No prior health issues. Vernon, Caleb said quietly. What? Someone I know. Someone who wanted Helix stopped and didn't care about legality. Caleb felt sick. I told him no. He did it anyway. Morrison grabbed his arm. You knew about this? I knew he wanted to. I didn't think he'd actually didn't think or didn't care. Because if you had knowledge of a planned assassination and didn't report it, it wasn't planned. It was hypothetical, a conversation. Bullshit. You met with a known operator, received intelligence on Helix targets, and 24 hours later the primary target is dead? Morrison's face was red. You're either complicit or you're an idiot. Maybe both. Sarah stepped between them. Everyone calm down. If this Vernon person acted independently, that's on him, not Caleb. That's for a jury to decide. Right now, Caleb's a material witness in a potential murder investigation. Morrison signaled to 2 agents. Take him into custody. Protective custody, he clarified at Caleb's expression. But you're not going anywhere until we sort this out. You can't do this. Your daughter will be protected, but you just became a liability, and liabilities get locked down until they're not. The agents approached. Caleb could have fought, could have put them both down and walked out, but that would prove Morrison right, would make him the thing everyone seemed to think he was. So he held out his wrists, let them cuff him. Watched Mia's face crumple as they led him toward the door. Daddy! It's okay, baby. Just a misunderstanding. Aunt Rachel will take care of you. I'll be back soon. But he could see in Rachel's eyes that she didn't believe him. Could see in Sarah's expression that she was reconsidering everything. Could see in Morrison's face that the line between protected witness and criminal suspect was thinner than anyone wanted to admit. They put him in a federal holding cell downtown. Concrete and steel and the particular silence that came from being cut off from everything that mattered. No phone, no contact except through official channels. No way to know if Mia was safe or if Titan was moving on her school or if Vernon was killing more executives. Just silence and waiting and the slow corrosion of not knowing. Hours passed. Maybe 4. Maybe 6. Time moved differently in cells. Caleb had been in worse. Actual prisons and actual war zones. This was luxury by comparison. But luxury didn't make captivity less confining. The door opened. Not Morrison. Someone else. Federal prosecutor Diane Hartley carrying a file thick enough to be a weapon. Mr. Vance, we need to talk. About? About Marcus Helix's very convenient death. About your meeting with Robert Vernon. About how much trouble you're in if you don't start being honest. Caleb sat on the bench. I've been honest. Vernon approached me, offered to help. I said no. Before or after he gave you intelligence files on Helix executives? How do you know about? Because Vernon's under surveillance, has been for months. We know about your meeting. We know he passed you information. What we don't know is whether you participated in planning Marcus Helix's murder. I didn't. Convince me. Caleb met her eyes. I left Sentinel 3 years ago because I was tired of violent solving problems. I became a maintenance tech specifically to not be that person anymore. Vernon wanted me to revert. I refused. That's the truth. The truth is flexible when people's lives are at stake. And right now, 6 Helix executives had intelligence profiles compiled. 1 is dead, the others are in hiding. That's not coincidence. No. It's Vernon working alone. Is it? Because our surveillance lost him 12 hours ago. He's gone to ground. And without him, you're the only connection we have to this operation. Caleb felt the trap closing. I'm not part of any operation. Then help us find him. Testify to what you know. Cooperate. I don't know where he is. But you know how he thinks, how he operates. You worked together for years. Hartley leaned forward. Marcus Helix was a terrible person. Responsible for dozens of deaths. But he deserved a trial, not an execution. If we let Vernon kill his way through Helix's leadership, we're no better than them. We're nothing like them. No? We're choosing who lives and dies based on our own judgment, circumventing law and due process. That's exactly what Helix did. Just different targets. She wasn't wrong. That was the problem. Vernon's logic was sound right up until you applied it to yourself. Until you realized that anyone could justify anything if they believed hard enough.
What do you want from me? Caleb asked. I want you to make a statement, on record, condemning Vernon's actions, offering to help apprehend him, demonstrating that you're on the right side of this. And if I don't, then you become an accessory to murder, federal murder, the kind that puts you away for life while your daughter grows up without you. Caleb thought about Mia, about Emma, about all the choices that had led to this cell. Okay, he said. I'll make a statement, but I want protection for my family upgraded. Real protection, not GPS trackers that anyone can find. Done. And I want Sarah Chen's story published. No editorial interference, no corporate pressure. The truth gets out. I can't control what newspapers publish. You can make it clear that suppressing evidence in an active federal investigation is obstruction. You can make it very uncomfortable for editors who spike stories. Hartley considered. I can do that. Anything else? Yeah. When this is over, when Helix is actually stopped, I want my life back. No more surveillance, no more scrutiny, just me and my daughter and whatever normal looks like. If Vernon stops killing people, if Helix goes down legally, if you cooperate fully, then yes, you get your life back. It was the best deal he was going to get. Caleb knew that. But deals with prosecutors were like deals with the devil. Lots of fine print, lots of ways for things to go wrong. Okay, he said, let's do it. They moved him to an interview room. Cameras, recorders, Hartley and 2 FBI agents, everything official and documented. Caleb gave his statement, detailed his meeting with Vernon, described the files, condemned the murder of Marcus Helix, however terrible the man might have been, offered to assist in Vernon's apprehension, though he doubted he'd be much help. It took 2 hours. By the end, his throat was raw and his conscience was unclear about whether he'd done the right thing or just sold out the last person willing to actually fight. When they finished, Morrison appeared. You're free to go, back to protective custody with your family, new location, better security. Where's Vernon? Still missing, but we've got alerts out. He surfaces, we'll get him. You won't. He's too good. Maybe. But now we've got you on record against him. That limits his options. Caleb stood, stretched. His back ached from sitting. The other executives, the ones in Vernon's files, are they protected? Federal marshals, 24-hour security. If Vernon tries anything, we'll know. Will you? He planned this for months. You think he doesn't have contingencies? Morrison didn't answer, which was answer enough. They drove Caleb to the new safe house. Actual federal facility this time. Armed guards, controlled access. The kind of security that was either completely effective or completely irrelevant depending on Vernon's capabilities. Rachel and Mia were waiting. Mia ran to him, wrapped her arms around his waist, held on like she was afraid he'd disappear. I'm okay, baby. I'm here. They said you might not come back. They were wrong. Rachel looked exhausted. This is insane, Caleb. We can't live like this. I know. So fix it, or let it go. But stop being in the middle. That's where people get killed. She wasn't wrong. The middle was the worst place to be. Caught between Vernon's violence and the system's inadequacy. Between protecting Mia and pursuing justice. Sarah appeared from another room. Your prosecutor friend called. She's pushing my editor to run the full story. Threats and everything. He's caving. That's good. Is it? Because Vernon's still out there. Helix executives are dying. And we're locked in a building pretending we're making a difference. She pulled out her laptop. I've been thinking. There's another angle. Instead of just reporting what Helix did, we investigate who knew, who signed off, who took bribes. Make this about the whole ecosystem, not just one company. How long will that take? Weeks? Maybe months? People don't have weeks. Then what's your solution? Because I'm out of ideas that don't involve becoming Vernon. Caleb didn't have an answer. He was tired, scared, angry, all the things that made for bad decisions. His phone buzzed. New number, text message. 5 executives remain. I'm giving you 12 hours to get your family somewhere truly safe. After that, I finish what we started. RV Caleb stared at the message. Vernon was giving him a warning,
a courtesy from their old partnership, 12 hours before the killing started again. He could tell Morrison, let the FBI scramble, hope they stopped Vernon before more people died. Or he could do nothing. Let Vernon work. Let 5 people who'd killed dozens face consequences that courts would never deliver. It was the choice Emma would have hated, the choice Mia would never understand, the choice that made him exactly what Vernon had always said he was. But maybe Vernon was right. Maybe some problems only had violent solutions. Maybe justice was just a story people told themselves to sleep at night. Caleb deleted the message, turned off his phone, sat on the edge of a government-issue couch in a government-issue room, and tried to remember why the law mattered when it protected the wrong people. Outside, the city moved forward. Inside, he sat still, and 12 hours ticked away like a countdown to something he couldn't stop and wasn't sure he wanted to. Caleb watched the clock like it was counting down to the end of the world. Maybe it was. 7 hours had passed since Vernon's message. 5 executives remained alive. Somewhere in the city, his former team leader was moving through the night with the kind of precision that came from decades of making problems disappear, and Caleb was sitting in a federal facility doing nothing. Sarah found him at the window around 2 a.m. She looked as sleepless as he felt. "Can't stop thinking about it either?" she asked. "About what?" "About whether Vernon's right, whether some people deserve what's coming to them." Caleb didn't answer. The question had been eating at him for hours. Marcus Helix was dead. 5 more executives were marked. All of them had signed off on equipment they knew was defective. All of them had calculated that profit was worth more than lives. "My editor called," Sarah continued. "Stories running tomorrow. Front page. Full investigation. Everything we've got." "That's good." "Is it? Because even if the story destroys Helix's reputation, those executives will still be rich, still be free. They'll retire to private islands and nobody will remember their names in 6 months. At least people will know what they did. Knowing isn't justice. Knowing is just information." She sat beside him. "I've been a journalist for 12 years. You know how many corrupt people I've exposed? Dozens. Know how many actually faced real consequences? 3. 3 out of dozens. The rest just moved on. Different companies, different positions, same corruption." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe Vernon's approach is the only one that actually works. Maybe trying to fix broken systems from inside is just another way of protecting them." Caleb turned to look at her. "You want me to help him. That's why you're here." "I want you to not stop him. There's a difference." "Is there?" Sarah pulled out her laptop. "I've been tracking the remaining executives. Richard Castellano, the lawyer who threatened you, he's in a hotel downtown. Federal protection, but the detail is thin. Sarah Fletcher, VP of Operations, she's at her home in the suburbs. 3 agents outside. Vernon could get past them in his sleep." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you have Vernon's number. You could warn them, give the FBI time to reinforce security, save people who probably don't deserve saving." She paused. "Or you could do nothing. Let 12 hours expire. Let Vernon finish what he started. And become complicit in murder. But become complicit in justice. Real justice. The kind that actually stops people instead of inconveniencing them." Caleb stood, walked away from her. This was the trap. The seduction of violence dressed up as righteousness. He'd fallen for it before. Had spent years believing that eliminating problems was the same as solving them. Emma had taught him different. Had shown him that every shortcut had a cost. That becoming the monster to fight monsters just created more monsters. But Emma was dead because people like Helix executives valued money over safety. His phone buzzed. "Morrison." He answered. "We've got a situation," Morrison said without preamble. 2 of the protected executives are missing, Castellano and Fletcher. They gave their details the slip about an hour ago. "Missing how?" "Castellano claimed he needed to use the bathroom in his hotel. Never came out. Security found the window open. Fletcher told her agent she was going to bed, but surveillance shows her leaving through a basement exit. Both gone. Both unreachable. Vernon didn't take them. They ran. That's what I'm thinking. They know their targets. They're rabbiting. Or someone told them to run. Someone inside Helix with enough pull to coordinate an escape." Caleb thought fast. "The other 3 executives, where are they? Federal courthouse, high security. They're not going anywhere.
They're sitting ducks. Vernon doesn't need to infiltrate the courthouse. He just needs to make them come out. How would he? Morrison stopped. Christ, you think he'd force an evacuation? I think he's smart enough to use the system against itself. Fire alarm, bomb threat, anything that requires immediate evacuation. Get them into the open where protection is thin. Morrison was already moving. Caleb could hear it in his voice. I'm sending additional units,
Locking down the courthouse. Nobody moves until we clear this. It won't matter. Vernon planned this for months. He's got contingencies you haven't thought of. Then help me think of them. You know how he operates. How would you do it? Caleb closed his eyes. Thought like Vernon. Like the old version of himself who'd solved problems with precision and violence. He wouldn't go for the courthouse. Too obvious, too defended. He'd go for something softer, something that forces them to move on his terms. Like what? Like their families. Executives might risk themselves, but they won't risk their kids. Vernon takes a child, promises a trade, executive for hostage. They'll walk right into his hands. The line went silent for a beat, then Morrison swore. We've got protection on immediate family members, parents, spouses, children. But Vernon's thorough. He'll find someone you missed, girlfriend, ex-wife, business partner, someone who matters enough. I need a list of everyone connected to these executives. Now. Morrison was giving orders to someone in the background. And Caleb? If you know how to reach Vernon, this would be the time. I don't. Can't or won't. Does it matter? Morrison hung up. Sarah was watching him. You could stop this. One phone call. Tell Vernon to stand down. He wouldn't listen. You don't know that. I know him. Once he commits to an operation, he sees it through. Only way to stop him is to kill him. Then maybe that's what needs to happen. Caleb stared at her. You're a journalist. You're supposed to believe in truth and accountability, not execution. I believe in results. And right now, Vernon's getting results while we're getting sound bites. She wasn't wrong. That was the hell of it. Vernon was doing what the system couldn't, what the law wouldn't, what justice demanded but civilization prohibited. Mia appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Daddy? Why are you awake? Just working, baby. Go back to bed. Can't sleep. Too noisy in my head. Caleb went to her, knelt down to her level. What's noisy? All the adult stuff, the bad men and the scary things, and Aunt Rachel crying in the bathroom. Mia's face was serious. 8 years old and already too aware. Are we going to be okay? Yeah, sweetheart. We're going to be okay. Promise? He wanted to. Wanted to promise safety and normalcy and a future where maintenance technicians didn't get pulled into corporate murder conspiracies. But promises were just words. And words didn't stop people like Vernon or Helix. I promise I'll do everything I can to keep you safe. That's not the same thing. No, but it's the truth. Mia studied him with Emma's eyes. Then she hugged him. Okay, I believe you. Rachel appeared behind her. Come on, sweetie, let's get you back to bed. She looked at Caleb over Mia's head. We need to talk, soon. After they left, Sarah spoke quietly. She deserves better than this. Better than running, better than hiding. I know. Then do something about it. End this, one way or another. Caleb's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Courthouse evacuated. Chemical spill alarm. 3 executives exposed. I have them. RV Sarah read over his shoulder. He did it. He actually did it. Caleb called Morrison immediately. Tell me the courthouse wasn't evacuated. How did you? Morrison's voice was chaos. Background noise, sirens. Chemical sensor went off in the HVAC system. Automated evacuation protocol. By the time we realized it was a false alarm, 3 executives were already gone, taken from the staging area. Their security detail is dead. Dead? Sniper, single shots, 3 agents down before anyone knew what was happening. Morrison sounded wrecked. This is on me. I should have anticipated. You couldn't have. Vernon's too good. Caleb felt sick. The executives. Are they actually in danger or is this a bluff? How should I know? Vernon's a ghost. We don't even have confirmation it's him. It's him. The method, the timing, everything points to him. Then help me find him. You know how he thinks. Where would he take them? Caleb thought.
Vernon would want somewhere secure, isolated, somewhere he could control. The old factory where they'd met? No. Too obvious. Somewhere else. Somewhere with meaning. Then it hit him. The Nevada Depot. The military base where 17 soldiers had died. Vernon had mentioned it, had evidence about it, had probably planned this with that location in mind as symbolic. There's a decommissioned military facility outside the city, Caleb said. Fort Hanson, closed 5 years ago. Vernon trained there. He'd use it. That's 40 miles. We can mobilize. No, you mobilize and he'll know. He'll kill the hostages and disappear. You want to save them, you let me go alone. Absolutely not. You're not law enforcement. You're not authorized. I'm someone he'll talk to. Someone who might actually get those people out alive. You storm in with tactical teams. This ends in blood. Morrison went quiet. Caleb could hear him thinking, weighing options, calculating costs. If you get those executives killed, then I'll face the consequences. But this is the play. You know it is. Another pause. Then Morrison exhaled. Okay. But you're wearing a wire, and you're not armed. If this goes sideways, we move in. Fine. Get me transport and get out of my way. 30 minutes later, Caleb was in an unmarked car heading north toward Fort Hanson. Federal agents had wired him with audio and GPS. No weapon. No backup plan except hoping Vernon still saw him as something other than an enemy. The fort appeared as a cluster of dark buildings against darker sky. Chain-link fence. Warning signs. The particular desolation of places the government had abandoned. Caleb parked outside the main gate. Walked in alone. The wire itched against his skin. Morrison was listening somewhere, probably coordinating a tactical response that would get everyone killed if it came to that. The main building was 3 stories of concrete and broken windows. Caleb entered through a door that should have been locked but wasn't. Inside was darkness and the smell of decay. "Vernon," his voice echoed. "I know you're here. I want to talk." Silence. Then a light clicked on. 3rd floor. Vernon's voice filtered down. "Come up, Caleb. Slowly. Hands visible." Caleb climbed. The stairs were treacherous, concrete crumbling. By the 3rd floor, his heart was hammering. Not from exertion, from the knowledge that this could go very wrong very fast. Vernon stood in what had once been an office. 3 executives knelt on the floor, hands zip-tied, mouths taped. Richard Castellano. Sarah Fletcher. A 3rd man Caleb didn't recognize. All of them terrified but alive. Vernon held a pistol casually. Not pointed at anyone, just present. A reminder. "You came alone," Vernon said. "You asked me to. I asked you to get your family safe, not play hero." "Same thing. If you kill these people, I become an accessory. FBI comes after me. My family never stops running. If I don't kill them, they walk away rich, comfortable, unpunished." Vernon gestured at the executives. These 3 signed the orders, approved the equipment, collected bonuses while people burned. You want them to just post bail again? Go back to business? I want justice, real justice, the kind that comes from courts. Courts protect them. You know that. You've lived it. Caleb stepped closer. "Marcus Helix is dead. That's enough. Let these 3 face trial. Let the evidence speak. Let the system fail again? No." Vernon's expression was sad, almost gentle. "I taught you better than this, Caleb. Taught you that some problems only have permanent solutions. You taught me violence. Emma taught me there were other ways. And where is Emma now? Dead. Because someone else chose profit over safety. Because the system failed." Vernon raised the pistol, not pointing it, just acknowledging it. "I'm not a monster. I'm just someone who stopped pretending the world works differently than it does." Behind him, the executives made muffled sounds through their gags. Castellano was crying. Fletcher looked resigned. The 3rd man was praying silently. Caleb took another step. "You kill them. You prove everything Helix's lawyers are saying, that we're the violent ones, that we're the problem. You make their martyrs and us killers. Better to be a live killer than a dead victim." "Is it? Because I've been both. And I can tell you, the killing doesn't fix anything. It just creates more problems, more bodies, more grieving families. These families won't grieve long. They'll inherit fortunes and live well. Maybe, but you'll still be a murderer,
And I'll still be the person who let it happen. Vernon lowered the pistol slightly. You think I don't know what I'm doing? Think I haven't calculated the cost? I'm old, Caleb. Sick. Got maybe 2 years left. Prostate cancer. Metastasized. Nothing to lose except time I don't have. The revelation hit Caleb hard. Vernon, don't. I made peace with it. Decided my last year should mean something. Should fix something that needed fixing. He gestured at the executives. These people stole years from others. I'm just balancing the scales. By becoming what you hate? By becoming what's necessary. Caleb could hear Morrison in his earpiece, whispering instructions. Tactical teams were moving into position. 3 minutes until breach. He needed to end this before everyone died. Robert, Caleb said, using Vernon's first name, something he rarely did. I'm asking you, as someone who served with you, someone who learned from you, someone who respects what you tried to teach me. Please, don't do this. Vernon smiled sadly. You're wearing a wire. I know. I'd be disappointed if you weren't, and I know Morrison's people are surrounding this building, probably 90 seconds from entry. Then you know this is over. Let the hostages go. Come in peacefully. You're sick. They'll consider that. Might even let you die in a hospital bed chained to a gurney? No thanks. Vernon raised the pistol again, this time pointing it at Castellano. These 3 are me. That's the choice. Morrison breaches, I kill them and myself. You convince them to back off, I let them go. And then what? Then I disappear, like I've done 100 times before. And maybe someday someone finds my body in a place that doesn't matter. But these 3? They face trial. They face justice. Your way. It was a deal, a terrible deal, but maybe the only one available. Caleb spoke toward the wire. Morrison, pull back. Give us 10 minutes. The response was immediate. Negative. We're breaching in 60 seconds. Then you'll have 4 dead bodies. Pull back or I walk away. Your choice. Silence. Then, damn it, Caleb, 5 minutes. That's all you get. Vernon nodded. Smart man, your FBI friend. Knows when he's beat. He walked to the executives, cut their zip ties with a knife. Go. All of you. Walk out slowly. If you run, I shoot. Understand? They nodded frantically. Castellano was the first up, stumbling toward the stairs. Fletcher and the third man followed. Caleb watched them go. Heard them clattering down the stairs. Heard Morrison's team intercepting them at ground level. Then it was just him and Vernon. You're not really letting them go, are you? Caleb asked. I am. I keep my word. Vernon set the pistol on a desk. But I'm also not going to prison. So this is goodbye. Don't. There's still time, still options. No, there isn't. Cancer's already won. I'm just choosing how the end goes. Vernon pulled a second pistol from his jacket. This one he did point at himself. Tell Morrison I'm sorry about his agents. They were good men doing their jobs. Wrong place, wrong time. Robert, tell Mia her father is a good man. Better than me. Better than most. Vernon's hand was steady. And Caleb? Stop trying to fix broken systems. Build new ones. That's how things actually change. The shot was loud in the enclosed space. Vernon dropped. Caleb lunged forward, but there was nothing to do. The wound was precise, professional, the kind you didn't survive. Vernon's last words were barely audible. You did good, kid. Better than I taught you. Then he was gone. Caleb sat there, holding Vernon's body, until Morrison's team breached and dragged him away. They checked for vitals, found none, and started processing the scene. Caleb answered questions mechanically, explained what happened, told the truth. Mostly. By dawn, he was back at the federal facility. Mia ran to him, crying, holding him like she hadn't in years. Rachel was there. Sarah was there. All of them asking if he was okay. He wasn't. But he would be. The executives survived. Faced trial. 3 months later. Helix Corporation collapsed under the weight of scandal and lawsuits. Castellano got 12 years. Fletcher got 15. The third man turned state's evidence and got probation. None of it brought back the dead. But it was something. Sarah's story won awards, Pulitzer nomination, job offers from major networks. She took one. Used her platform to investigate other corporations, other corruption, changed careers from reporter to advocate, made a difference. Morrison got promoted. started a task force focused on corporate crime, built the kind of team that didn't need people like Vernon to dispense justice. The legal kind, the slow kind, the kind that sometimes actually worked. And Caleb went back to being a maintenance technician, fixed air conditioners and fire panels and safety systems that most people never thought about, raised Mia, dated occasionally, built a life that was smaller than Vernon's crusades but bigger than hiding. 2 years after Fort Hanson, Caleb took Mia to Oakland Cemetery, Emma's grave. They brought flowers, stood in silence for a while. "Do you think Mom would be proud?" Mia asked. She was 10 now, taller, smarter, still asking questions that had no easy answers. "Of you? Absolutely." "Of you." Caleb thought about it, about the fight at the Meridian, about Vernon's crusade, about choosing imperfect justice over perfect violence. "I think she'd say I did my best. That's all anyone can do." "Is it enough?" "Sometimes. Sometimes it's not. But it's all we have." They left the cemetery and went for pizza. Their tradition. Their normal. It wasn't perfect. The world was still broken in 1,000 ways. Corporate greed still existed. People still cut corners and endangered lives. The system still protected power more than it protected people. But small fixes added up. One safety system at a time, one inspection at a time, one moment of choosing to step in instead of walk away. 3 months later, Caleb got a letter. No return address. Postmarked from somewhere in South America. Inside was a newspaper clipping about a mining company executive found dead under suspicious circumstances. And a note in Vernon's handwriting. "Some of us fix things quietly. Some of us fix them loudly. Both matter." RV Caleb burned the letter, never mentioned it to anyone, but he kept the lesson. Because Vernon was right about one thing. The world needed fixing. And whether you did it with evidence or action, with courts or conviction, with process or precision, what mattered was that you tried, that you didn't look away, that you cared enough to step in when someone needed help, even when it cost you everything. That night, Caleb tucked Mia into bed, checked the smoke detectors in their apartment like he did every night, and sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and Emma's photograph. "I'm still trying," he told her picture. "Still fixing what I can, still being better than Vernon, trying to be what you believed I could be." The photograph didn't answer. But somewhere in his chest, where grief lived alongside purpose, Caleb felt something shift. Not healing, not closure, just acceptance. He was a maintenance technician, a father, a widower, someone who'd fought when fighting was necessary and walked away when walking was wise. Someone who'd learned that heroism wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present, about showing up, about doing the next right thing even when the right thing was complicated. And in a world that often overlooked the quiet ones, sometimes the people who fixed the smallest things were exactly the ones who changed everything.